Hi, this is Jay.
This is Steve.
This is Bob.
This is Alpha Quadrant 6, a science fiction review show.
And we are now doing the Science of Science Fiction Season 3.
And this time we are focusing on the Alien movie franchise.
Yep, this is part 2. And I'm going to start us off in this episode talking about the basically space travel in the Alien franchise.
Right.
FTL, and do they have faster than light travel? How far are they traveling and how much time, etc. Now, this is interesting because we saw this movie when it came out in
Late
78.
70s, yeah.
Yeah, late 78. For my entire life, basically, I have been confused as to whether or not they are traveling faster than light in the Alien franchise. Because they never, they do, I know in the role-playing game and other later aspects of it, but in the movies, like Aliens, they never mention directly anything about warp drive or hyperspace, or they don't go into faster than light and come out of FTL. There's no discussion of it. Yeah. And there's lots of reasons to think that they're not traveling faster than light. However, there's a reason to think that they are.
Right.
And that is the distances they cover in the time allowed. Mm-hmm. Right? They are going to other solar systems and not Alpha Centauri. Like they're going 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever, or more light years in months. So that's it. By definition, they're going faster than light.
But it's vague.
It's extremely vague. I have to tell you, my sense has always been that the writers didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Like they weren't really crystal clear. It's like, they're going a long distance. It's taking months. We'll put them in cryo, and that's it. And the ship is just traveling.
Yeah.
And they're not really thinking about how fast it's going, if it's going faster or slower than the speed of light. So it's just not part of the canon.
They didn't fill in those blanks.
They didn't fill in those blanks. We have to really be detectives and try to infer it. So interestingly, in Alien Earth, which is 2 years before the Alien movie, right, which means that the Nostromo is already on its way back, from where it was going, or it's maybe just about to leave.
Yeah,
it's definitely left.
It's
definitely left for the trip if it wasn't already on the way back. And the synth Hirsch says to Wendy, how do you know she might be the one, or about Wendy, she might be the one that invents FTL, which is a pretty strong statement indicating that they don't have FTL
unambiguous,
yet.
Really, yep.
Well, either he's lying or he's mistaken, which makes no sense.
Is he joking maybe too? Or
he's
he
manipulating
has no sense of humor.
No, he's a synth. He's a synth.
But
he can manipulate.
That's
though.
a hell of a statement, though.
Yeah.
It's definitely like okay. Like, what does that actually mean?
It strongly implies they don't have FTL.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then, so that means the Nostromo doesn't have FTL. But the Nostromo has to have FTL. Because they were on their way back, they stopped at the planet, the LV, whatever. It was still 10 months to get back to Earth. They were halfway there, so that's 20 months. Mm-hmm. You're not getting to any place in 20 months. You're not getting to any star system.
Not at sublight.
No,
for sure.
And not at sublight. At the speed of light, it would be 4 years to the closest star system.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know if this factors in any way, but the ship doesn't look like it can go faster than the speed of light.
It's a mining ship full of ore, 20 million tons of ore, whatever.
Ripley does say that they have artificial gravity.
Yeah, Bob will be talking about that. But they don't. But again, that's the other thing. There's a lot of technical banter happening in the background.
Yeah.
They never mention FTL or hyper or whatever in that technical banter. If the writers were thinking about it, they could have easily have thrown it out there.
So this can't be it's not a gimme then, because they're not saying something fantastical and they need it to.
If they said hyperdrive, that's the gimme.
Right.
I think this is a whopper. But there's other aspects that are bad too. So here's the other thing. So at the end of Alien, Ripley gets in the shuttle and then departs the Nostromo, and the Nostromo blows up. Is the Nostromo traveling at faster than light at that time? And if so, how does the shuttle leave it as it's traveling at the speed of light? Does the shuttle also have FTL? And
all right. So I rewatched the first movie recently with you.
Yeah.
Right. So a couple things I noticed this time was that when she gets in that shuttle and leaves, she's leaving fast.
Very fast.
Like ridiculously fast, which I was very surprised.
The acceleration's huge.
Yeah.
And you also get an idea of how big the Nostromo is, because she's flying accelerating,
fast, and
and she's
in it.
still under the Nostromo until she clears it, and then you can
Yeah.
see how quickly she was going. That's a huge ship.
And the other thing is, I just have to say this, even though it's not exactly on point what we're talking about. That explosion when the ship blew up, because basically what they did was they turned off the cooling system on the ship. That explosion was insane.
It was like 3 fusion bombs going off.
Yeah. Like why would it? I know it looks cool, but that doesn't make sense.
Well,
either.
you have to say it's got some kind of fusion reactor, and we know from Aliens when fusion reactors overheat, they explode like a hydrogen bomb.
Okay, so
Yeah.
but there was lots of explosions.
There's lots of explosions. All right, but that's the ambiguity about FTL and playing footloose and fancy free with distances and time and speed and whatever, that's one aspect of it. But I do want to use this opportunity to talk about another aspect which most science fiction movies get wrong. They treat space as if it's all static, as if you're just going from point A to point B, right? But it's not static. Everything is in motion and everything is in orbit, basically, right? So stars are orbiting around the galaxy. Planets are orbiting around the suns, and satellites are orbiting around the planets, right? So if you want to, this is all what we call orbital mechanics, right? So if you want to go from the solar system to another solar system
in our galaxy,
you don't just go from here to there. You have got to match the vector of the destination star. You have to be going in
Where
the
it's gonna
direction,
be. Yeah.
not just where it's going to be. That's rendezvous, right? You have to, so that first of all, you have to go where it's going to be, but you have to match its direction and speed. And
right? You would get there and be like, "Oh, there's a planet. Goodbye." It's gone. It's like,
zipping
oh crap!
by, right, exactly. I mean, Aliens isn't the worst violator of this, but
It's common.
It's very, very common. So, like for example, when they're going back to Earth in Alien, and they stop by the LV planet with the xenomorph, that's not just, let's just stop by this planet. In order to rendezvous with that planet, they would have had to match the stellar system's vector, then match that planet's orbit.
Right.
And this is difficult, you're saying.
And yes, it's not only it's difficult. You can't do it with warp drive because warp doesn't change your momentum, right? It doesn't. It just warps space to get you to. That is just going from point A to point B. You would have to accelerate. You have to burn your engines, right? Impulse drive, whatever. You have to burn your engines to accelerate the ship into the right orbit.
Right.
Right. Either that, or you're falling into the star, or you're leaving the star. You're going on a hyperbolic course out of the system. You have to, change your velocity to get into that system, and then to get into orbit around that star, and then get into orbit around that planet around that star.
It's similar,
and they don't. That would be a massive burn of fuel and propellant, especially for a ship that size, and would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
That might take months just doing
slowing
that.
down.
Yeah.
So
if you wanted to rendezvous with the International Space Station, it's not like, oh, there it is, let's go to it. With orbital mechanics,
about
it's much
speed.
more complicated. I mean, if you accelerate at the wrong time, I'm just going to accelerate to the space station. You're just going to go into a higher orbit. I mean, it's very complicated. It's still orbital mechanics, slightly different because the orbit's literally around the center of the galaxy. But for a planet as well,
but the speeds are actually much more.
Yeah, the speeds are much more. So it's much more complicated, and they never seem to take that into account.
They just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
They just treat space as if it's static, which is just not.
It's
not
an interesting
the case.
angle that
I've never
I've
thought
heard
of it.
covered before.
Yeah, I never thought of that particular problem before, and it is something that just seems to make a lot of sense that they just ignore, right?
And like Star Wars, they just hyperspace and they arrive at a planet. Like, how are you going at the same momentum as that planet, in the same orbit as that planet?
Well, but that's not even science fiction. That's,
I know,
Well.
but Star Trek does that with warp drive too. They just warp right next to a planet without any discussion ever
about how they stop
of
themselves.
matching the orbital mechanics of their destination.
Yeah, I guess I assume that that was already taken into account in the trajectory and the course
There's
that's plotted.
never a throwaway line
Yeah,
in the
never,
technobabble that
that I
gives
can remember.
any indication that the writers even are aware that this exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
yeah.
is it?
They mention Heisenberg compensators. They don't match. They don't mention orbital
I
mechanics.
totally agree,
Yeah.
and because we're heavy duty geeks, and we think about this stuff. I think most viewers really don't care.
Yeah, but we're trying to teach science
it's-
while having fun, trashing science
No,
fiction movies.
without a doubt. But I think the bottom line is, we've said this before, they just need a couple of throwaway lines.
It's
They
so
don't-
have a consultant, and a lot of movies do have science
Right.
consultants. The consultant says, explains just what we explained. Say, okay, so we could do some matching vector of the destination. All right,
Exactly.
now go into warp.
That's all you
That's
gotta
it.
do.
And and again, there's a time frame. It's like, or while we're warping from A to B, we're also going to be burning to match the momentum of the destination.
Yeah.
warp
Yeah.
Or have someone be like, hey, we got to accelerate, and then we have to spend a couple of months deaccelerating. That
Yeah.
actually is a cool thing to say, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
You build it. If you're a really good writer, you build that into the plot. You build it into the story.
Right.
You make it work with the story
No.
rather
Yeah.
than having to deal with it.
In Alien, the first
Yeah.
movie, they stop at another planet.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
And there's no, yeah, you're right. There's just
They
literally the whole thing
that's
just doesn't
it's
exist.
like you're pulling it off the road to a destination.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that
No.
way.
Yeah.
That would have been a massive maneuver. And there's no way they would have had the fuel to do that.
And
they
they
would have
would-
planned that trip, and then that would be it. Now, you could argue, well, the company knew that they were going there. They always knew that they were going
Ah,
there.
yeah.
So that would
Yeah.
that's how you have to retcon that. And that's reasonable.
But it
because
would have added months and months probably to their.
would have
Potentially.
added a
Final arrival
long
time.
time, and they would have known about it. Now, granted, Ash knew about it.
Yeah, the
because
ship-
Ash
Right.
is a goddamn robot.
He's a goddamn robot.
But the engineers didn't know about it. No one else
Yeah.
knew about it. They didn't know, like, why are we taking all this extra fuel? This makes no sense.
Yeah.
So they could have thoughtfully incorporated that more into the flow of,
Yeah.
of things. But again, I think in the Alien is a particular violation of, it's space, it's far, it takes long to get there. That's the level of detail.
I like how Dune does it. Dune, they literally fold space,
Yeah.
meaning they're flying forward and they just leave from over here and they appear over
But
here.
there's the same problem.
Oh, there is, but at
There's the
least
same
But we're
problem.
over at least one huge hump.
But I know, but again, when you arrive at your destination, you wouldn't have a matched vector to that momentum to that destination.
The Guildmasters.
You would
can
have to
its
do
thing.
that first.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
You can't go from one planet's orbit. You can't go from Caladan to Dune, and just
would
by
be cool.
just by folding space,
Yeah.
with no adjustment in your momentum.
Yeah. All
and,
they'd have
and
to
you're
do is-
magically in the orbit of the planet that you're going to.
Yeah, so they would
No.
have to in whatever space they're in, they'd have to orient their ship in the right position and then go to the right speed.
Yes.
And all that, and then if they go,
Yeah,
then
they
you-
fold and they arrive with the right
Even
momentum.
better.
right,
I like
you
that.
have to match the stars, trajectory, and then the
and you're
planets.
accelerating, and that's months.
Yeah.
That's like when you're zipping around just our solar system, you're not just going to Mars. You are getting in Mars's orbit.
I feel like we got a whopper on our hands.
This is a massive whopper.
Yeah.
This is a massive whopper.
In case you don't
You
know,
will not talk me out of it.
Talk about our quick 4-point system.
The
'cause what
4-point
this is
system
new.
is science and science fiction movies. It's either hard, meaning everything's good. It's soft, meaning it's like, okay, they're extrapolating, but it's fine. And then it's gimme, which means it's in service to the plot. It's magic. Don't worry about it. Or a whopper, meaning this is just bad science.
They screw it up.
They just screwed it up. So I'm calling the whole orbital mechanics, being completely inconsistent about distance and time, is just the single most massive whopper in the Alien franchise, in my opinion.
And I would call it
Wait.
a whopper too, and I would add to that in most science fiction movies,
It is.
it's a whopper.
I agree.
Now, I thought this was more FTL than orbital mechanics.
It's all space
all-
travel.
it's all
I'm
connected.
talking about all the space travel.
Well, I'm looking at this through an FTL lens, and for me, FTL is the classic gimme.
Yep.
They give us
But-
very little information about it, but it still, to me, edges over into the gimme because it's FTL. You need to get places fast. It's assumed. I don't care. I don't really mind that much.
But that's not the problem I'm talking about. If they just said engage warp drive and then here we are, that's a gimme. But being inconsistent, like actual contradictory and very loose with whether they're using it or not using it, when was it invented, how far are they going, all
Okay.
that stuff.
All that? You're including all
plus
that?
the complete ignorance of orbital mechanics and acceleration and all that. I think the
All right.
whole thing is a giant whopper.
if you're including all of that, then yeah, it's Whopper territory. Okay.
All right, so for this one, to recap, for the space travel, including FTL in the, whether it exists or not, in the Alien franchise, I'm going to call it a whopper.
Yeah, it's a whopper.
Whopper.
All right, so it's a
Whopper. All right, so first of all, I have to say, so imagine the three of us with our dad with our other brother and probably 3 or 4 of our friends.
Yeah.
We went in to see the first Aliens movie. I have to note, at the time this movie came out, I was 10 years old. I was too young to see it.
Alien. So this is Alien.
Alien. I was too young because it scared the shit out of me, which is fine because I got over it
Yeah.
in a couple of years. It was a freaking awesome movie either way, though. So the thing that we all freaked out about in a good way was the freaking android. Ash was so cool. Finding out that he was an android, the way that we did it, and then the interrogation scene. Oh my God, it was so powerful. It was so awesome. And we agree mutually that this was probably the best depiction of an android
Definitely.
that we've probably ever seen at the time and for years and years and years
'Cause
later.
even at the time, my 14-year-old nerd self was consistently annoyed at the way androids were depicted in movies.
Yeah, they
Going
had,
back to like
a mask.
Westworld, yeah. It's like you take off their face and it's a rigid mask, and underneath is just hard electronics. Or you open up their arm and it's just electronics. Because obviously that's just easier to slap fake electronics on top of somebody's
Absolutely.
arm. But it's like, how is that faking somebody out to being human? That would feel like metal under their skin. It wouldn't feel like
Of course.
a person. And we all know, like, Ash was squishy. He
Yeah.
had fluid and soft parts and mechanisms and pulleys and whatever.
Well, he was indistinguishable from,
It was
from a real
synthetic
human.
life.
Without a doubt.
and we were blown away by how awesome that
and
was.
they ate and drank.
Yeah.
So they definitely were designed to be ultra humanoid, largely undetectable. I mean, the only times
Yeah.
that people had a hint, particularly in the movie Aliens, when they see the milky blood, then that's of course the big like, oh, this is not a
And
human.
Bishop said, I prefer artificial life form. Right? He thought he was just an artificially created living person.
Yeah.
Yeah, artificial person. Yeah,
And he
artificial
was. And he was. And the other thing too is they have their cognition is definitely human-like in almost every regard. I mean, they walk, talk, act like
They're
human.
sentient.
Bishop seems to have emotions. He
Sapient.
seems to have morals. You know, Ash, on the other hand, you know, he was a bad dude. You know, although I do have I can't help
twitchy.
but sideway. He gets all kind of weird when
Gets
he starts
twitchy.
when he starts doing bad stuff to humans. And I feel like they were forcing him to do it.
I had that. Yeah.
Oh,
I
interesting.
Completely agree
Kinda
with
like-
you. Bishop says my programming, prevents me from harming humans, or by inaction allowing a human.
Classic Asimov.
Asimov laws of robotics.
Yeah.
But he has programming,
Yeah.
which is fine. Doesn't mean that he's not sentient. And he said that the Ash models were twitchy.
Twitchy.
But I do agree that when I'm watching an Alien with you again, it's like he's malfunctioning because they're making him do stuff that breaks his behavioral inhibitors.
I totally agree.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like that.
I like
think
it too.
I think it's cool. So if we compare, just to get a sense of where like modern robotics is, and then where we'd have to get to, right? So the get to portion of this is, it's a fully functioning, probably part biological, part mechanical
For sure.
being that has some type of generalized artificial intelligence operating on a human level. Could we get there? I don't know how many years in the future.
It's 100 and something years in the future.
Okay,
It's
so-
21, 20 something.
So we can't. It's too far away. We can't even predict things that are going to happen 5 years from now. So it's far away enough where it's plausible that they get there. But just as a point of reference, today's robots that we have like the Atlas robot. We have Boston Dynamics and everything that you can watch videos on all their stuff. Like we have robots that can do a lot of physicality, but there isn't an AI. There's nothing squishy about them. I mean, these are like super, super early robotics. So there isn't a clear path between today's robotics and to what we see in the Alien franchise. But still, with 100 plus years, or let's just say around number 100 years to go, I think it's plausible that they could get to that level of technology by then. I mean, right now, I'm not an expert in artificial intelligence. We have a lot of smart people out there that are saying like, AGI, artificial general intelligence, human-like intelligence, not ChatGPT, human-level intelligence is like not that far away. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I've been following that prediction for decades. I think it's not unreasonable to say second half of this century.
Right.
Human level AGI. That's not unreasonable. I'm going to tell you, for the androids, the synths, in the Alien franchise, I'm giving it a hard science rating. There's no problem with it. It's plausible in terms of the time frame. It's plausible in terms of what we see in canon as to how they function. and there's no violation of the laws of physics or of probability, of plausibility. To me, that's hard science fiction.
Really?
Yeah.
So I thought the hallmark of the soft science designation was more extrapolation.
Of science, not of technology.
Okay, all right.
They didn't
That's
have
an
to. They didn't have to
interesting
assume any new science.
Exactly.
It's just.
Oh,
But
okay.
extrapolating technology is fine. Right.
Okay.
So that's hard science fiction, right? It's still, I give it no reservation hard science designation.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely give it hard science, largely because, we have current technologies that are the backbone of where this would go. If it were 50 years ago, you couldn't say it was hard science. That was definitely a gimme 50 years ago. Today, though, no, because we have the the computer intelligence pathway. We can see that companies are spending billions and billions of dollars developing robotics and everything. I think
I think we'll
awesome.
get there before the time frame of the movie.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
anything.
And I just have to say it again. That interrogation scene with Ash in the first movie is
It's iconic.
It's in the top 5 of
iconic.
all time science fiction moments. That blew my mind, and every time I watch it, I get super excited. I like how they distorted his voice. I like the weird globes in his neck
Yeah.
that you can't
Yeah,
identify,
right.
but they just seem so just on the edge of like, yeah, that's really cool. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
But it serves a
It was
function.
great.
I love it. Bob?
I was leaning towards soft science, but if we're interpreting hard science as pure, like the science, even though that we can't make it today.
Yeah.
And so given that idea that it can still be hard science because it's not really breaking anything we really know about science now.
It's
So
it's just technological progress within existing science.
And
You don't even have to
physics, yeah.
discover any new science for that to be possible.
Right,
It's
right.
just technological.
So given
advancement.
that, I'll say, yeah, this is hard science. That's exciting to think that is hard science.
All right, so to recap this, I'm giving this a hard science rating.
Hard science.
Hard science.
All right, therefore it is
Hard
hard
science.
science, guys. All right.
Guys,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about gravity in the Alien franchise.
You
Very
mean
cool.
artificial gravity?
I'm just,
Yeah.
Gravity, artificial gravity, it's all kind of interrelated. Gravity is, I would argue, one of the most abused sciences in science fiction. And it also often comes down to budgetary constraints. It's hard to make actors float around in a ship. So yeah, I understand, and I'm not mad at 99% of the science fiction that has people walking around in a ship with no real viable source of gravity. All right, so let's talk about what does science say about gravity today. So gravity today is, there's a few flavors, if you will, but true gravity was, as described in Einstein's general relativity, is mass energy curving space-time. So what you interpret as gravity is this curved space-time. This is called gravitational acceleration. That's gravity. Very different from all the other fundamental forces for many reasons. Now, there's other types of gravity that are based on an acceleration. These are artificial gravity. You're in the realm of artificial gravity. You've got linear acceleration, the classic rocket that's ever accelerating. And that acceleration is pressing you against the floors of the ship like it's gravity, almost indistinguishable from gravity.
But you
So
have
that's-
to be constantly accelerating.
Yes,
for that to function.
Yes.
and that's quite difficult because constant acceleration for extended periods of time is
Takes
using
a lot of energy, a lot of fuel, a lot of
right.
propellant.
Chemical rockets are not going to do it. You need a torch rocket, which is potentially not even possible. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So yes, but very tough. But that's for brief periods you can replicate. You can create a artificial gravity. There's also rotational acceleration, the classic fair rides where you're spinning around, and that rotational acceleration, centripetal acceleration.
So that's like The Martian or 2001. They use rotational acceleration to get artificial gravity.
Great, yeah. It's artificial. It's kind of obvious in more ways
Yeah.
than the linear acceleration, but that rotational acceleration appears to create an inertial force that it's centrifugal force, which is kind of a fictitious force, but it's a good artificial gravity that's viable. So clearly we can knock off linear acceleration and rotational acceleration. They're not using that in Alien. They're basically there's mention of
But
turning
they could
on or
have.
turning off gravity. They could have done it.
They could have easily have done that.
They could have done that. They didn't do that. So we're in the realm of true gravity as described in general relativity, what would it take to have some sort of device, some sort of gravity plating, right, is what we're thinking.
And
what
by
would
the
it
way,
take to have that work?
We know they have artificial gravity in the alien canon
Yes.
because they say artificial gravity is on. They
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
specifically refer to artificial
From
gravity.
the first movie.
And and it's got to be a gravitational type of acceleration,
Yeah.
which means that to make this happen, you would need some sort of mass energy, an immense amount of mass energy available to pull this off. But we're talking about a mass energy in the range of astrophysical objects like a neutron star, not a planet, but if you're going to curve space, similar to what we're experiencing right now on Earth, but in a small ship, you're going to need mass energies in the range of a neutron star. Who's wielding that kind of mass energy? Not us in a couple hundred years.
It's impossible,
Or it
basically.
almost, basically impossible. But there's other side effects. If you can wield that level of mass energy, great. I could walk around on my ship now. It's like Earth normal gravity. But there's also other things that are going to come along with that, like tidal forces that will essentially spaghettify you, because the difference in the tidal gravity, the tidal forces between your feet and your head are going to be so extreme.
Well, explain that a little bit more. Like, how does that function?
Because gravity changes over distance. You know, you've got the near, like for the moon, Earth. You've got the near side of the Earth and the far side of the Earth are experiencing slightly different amounts of gravity because of the proximity. Or even the classic example is when you're near a black hole, your feet are a little closer, so they're pulled a lot more than your head, so you're spaghettified. So it's a similar scenario.
But you need a super powerful source of gravity in order for that to happen.
You're basically simulating the Earth under your feet. When
Yeah.
you think about it that way, you are simulating the curvature of space that would be caused by the Earth.
Yeah, but why would you spaghettify if it was Earth gravity then?
Well, because you're not sitting on something the size of the Earth. You're doing that in the size of a ship. So now you have Earth gravity,
Right.
the size of a ship. So you have to hypothesize that they're not just generating 1G, right, one Earth surface gravity. They're doing it and they're controlling the field so you're not having tidal forces. But if you're going to give them artificial gravity, you could say, all right, they're
If you're not using linear acceleration or rotational acceleration, you're using gravitational acceleration, which is mass energy. That's the charge of gravity, mass energy. It's
Yeah.
not. There's no negative mass. So if that's our assumption, which is reasonable, then you're going to need a mass energy under your feet in that ship that's on the level of a neutron star, and that will also bring in other things that are unavoidable, like these tidal forces that are going to
So,
report, and radiations that
think
could
about it this
potentially
way. You could have
fry you.
1G of gravitational acceleration from the Earth, in which case everything's fine. You could have 1G of acceleration due to a very small black hole. That's not fine, right? That will have a very different effect on you than the Earth would,
So
because
you-
it's so concentrated.
Okay, so it's more deadly and dangerous because it's
In a
coming
black
from a
hole.
much smaller source.
Yes.
Right.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
all right.
So what we're saying though is like
Because the field would be distorted around a very tiny thing,
Right.
rather than spread out over the surface of the Earth.
So
right?
I'm never going
That's
to
why.
own a gravity belt. That's what you're saying.
No, that's not going to happen. So the idea that you need to wield that much, you need to control that much mass energy is ridiculous. Not going to happen. So what are the other options? What other options do we have? The one potential gimme here is the whole idea of gravitons, and that mediate the force of gravity. Maybe they exist. Maybe they don't. If we create a new branch of physics where we can manipulate gravitons, and we come up, of course, with quantum gravity theory, which we don't have, if we do all of that, then maybe I think there's a slight chance that you could potentially create something like this. But that's a huge assumption, a huge hypothetical. There's no evidence saying that that's possible.
In fact, the evidence says
only
it's almost certainly not true. We're just not 100%. We can't be 100% until we have a
Yeah.
working theory of quantum gravity.
Yeah.
Until then, we have to say, well, we can't know for absolutely sure,
But
but
it
all
is-
the evidence is pointing in the direction of there's no anti-gravitons, there's no anti-gravity.
So
Right.
there is no other way to warp space other than mass.
correct. Mass energy. Mass energy is
Yeah.
the only way we know. So is there another way? I don't think so, but you can't 100% rule that out, obviously. Gravitons might be a way to get around that. Doesn't seem likely, but having a gravity plating and reproducing gravitational acceleration technologically is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen unless there's that tiny little loophole that we're just not even seeing now and might never see.
What do you give it?
So,
Well, can I just say,
Yeah.
it depends. Yeah, this has to be either a whopper or a gimme.
Right.
It's the only two choices. We all agree
course,
on.
yeah.
It's definitely not hard science. It's not even
So
anywhere close
it comes
to
down
soft
to
science.
how angry are you about this?
Exactly. So, and I'll explain why I think it's a whopper.
Yeah.
So I get why you don't want to have every movie in space with people floating around, but there's ways around that. And that a little bit of thoughtfulness did it. So in the television series The Expanse, they didn't have artificial gravity. They had boots that clung to the deck, right? So just everything just stuck. So that's how they got around that. You're walking around with they should have, and they had their hair all tied up, So they thought about it, and they made it as convenient as possible for the actors to be walking around in 1G while pretending they're walking around in 0G.
That wouldn't work in Star Wars or Star Trek, though.
I hear you. But I'm just saying that was the way they went.
Yeah.
I think the easier way is either you use rotational, probably that's the easiest way. Do the Martian, the 2001. You got a massive ship like the Nostromo. It's mostly just storing ore. And you have the part of the ship where people live. Just make that fucking rotate.
In a ring, yeah.
And that's it. Just make that a rotational, and then most of the movie is them in the rotational part of the ship. Now, the linear acceleration can make sense, and I'll tell you why. Because they don't have to be accelerating the whole time. They could be accelerating for a couple of weeks at 0.8, 0.9 G or whatever, or 1 G, because they probably would need to do that anyway to get into the right vector and to get to where they're going. Then they go in their cryo chambers. Then they turn off the acceleration. They coast to their destination in 0 G. They're all in cryo chambers. Then they turn around. Now they're decelerating or whatever to their target. They're getting that 1 G back, and then they wake them up.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So you don't have to hypothesize that they were accelerating the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Only the time they were out of cryo.
That's not bad.
So I would have accepted that way more than, we got artificial gravity, which
Yeah.
is just a hand-wavy,
Get
don't
rid-
think
get
about it.
rid of
They
the
want it
problem.
to be a gimme, but we're really being lazy.
Yeah.
And I think that for that reason, they could have easily solved it, and they chose not to out of pure writing laziness.
Or,
to me,
or not even knowing that.
or
they-
ignorance.
Yeah.
It's laziness or ignorance. That makes it a whopper for me.
Okay. Go ahead, Bob.
Bastard. I'm leaning towards gimme. Gravity on a ship is one of those ubiquitous things. It's everywhere. I don't think it's one of those things that is basically an automatic gimme for me, because sometimes you don't have the budget for such a complex ship, Steve. And then you could open up other whoppers. If you have linear acceleration, I mean, you're going to accelerate this massive ship for how many months? What kind of technology would it take to even do that? That is kind of
a fusion reactor. That ship that size could have plenty of fuel and a propellant for a fusion reactor.
I mean, increasing your acceleration for weeks or months is not. I mean,
Wouldn't have had to be, as I said. It could have even just been days. Because
days is much more
reasonable. Just the time that they're in,
Right.
that they're out of cryo.
But you're also opening up. I mean, imagine thinking about, all right, is everything nailed down? There's so many other choices for other problems to arise. I get it, but I
know it takes work and writing and thought and consulting.
I know,
Right,
but gravity on a ship to me is just one of those almost automatic gimmies.
All right,
because
but
it's
here's
so
the thing.
important.
Here's another layer to my whopper versus gimme debate. If it's like Star Trek, where the whole vibe is we have transporters and artificial gravity, and it's advanced gimme science.
All right, I like this.
I'm
yeah.
more comfortable with it. But Alien franchise is gritty and
grittier.
industrial, and you know what I mean? And it doesn't really fit the vibe, and just throwing in artificial gravity doesn't really even fit the franchise. It would have made, right? They don't even have laser weapons. Everything is very low tech otherwise.
Yeah.
And I like it. It gives
And
it that.
there's this island of crazy science right there with this
Yeah.
gravity. Turn the gravity on.
It would have been so much
Yeah.
better for them to have to deal with the harshness of space, to deal with the change in gravity, to deal with acceleration, and to be in the rotational part of the ship, which could have been a huge part of the ship. And they didn't have to go to where the ore is stored or whatever. And then maybe if they did have to go into engineering or someplace, for that one little scene, you can have a low gravity scene.
Yeah.
They've done like they did that with The Martian.
Yeah, I mean, given
know?
the fact that there's no real other analogs of crazy science,
Yeah.
then I like that. I like that argument where this
Yeah.
is the lone island of
for
super
aliens,
crazy
For
science.
aliens, to me, it's a whopper.
Yeah, no,
So where are you, Bob?
I think you've swayed me on this one because it's in isolation. Whereas in Star Trek, they've got lots of crazy
Yeah.
shit.
Okay,
So
so
all right, I'll go with that the gravity in the Alien franchise is a bit of a whopper. Maybe a Whopper Junior, but a whopper.
I don't agree, and I'll tell you why.
All right.
And here's my reasoning. I like everything that you said.
Okay.
Like they
You
could have done
better.
those things.
Yeah.
The reason why is this is a staple of science fiction. Almost every
That was my
single
angle, yeah.
science fiction show, hands down, there's only a couple that really go the other route and put the extra work in and make it part of the thing. The thing is, spaceships are a parallel to like pirate ships or whatever, like real water traveling ships, right? They have bridges. It's like there's all these similarities. It's supposed
Sure.
to, and there's also like a military kind of vibe to it as well. And I think they're just extrapolating from that and the way that people function on those vessels to it.
Which I also don't like.
I got you. I know you don't like the which way people's heads are-
orientation.
Yeah, but the point is though, you can't deny that this is something that any science fiction movie, TV show, whatever, if they do artificial gravity, universally, everyone's like, okay, it's just an accepted trope that we're all good with. So I would say this is the ultimate science fiction gimme is the fake gravity.
I
Yeah.
disagree. I mean, I hear you. I accept your premise, but the thing is, that's just justifying the laziness. And again, like with the androids, they didn't go for the trope. They didn't go for the Westworld, kind of robot
Circuitry right under the
They
skin.
were
Yeah.
thoughtful. I loved what the thought they put into designing, designing Ash. I love the thought they put into what was going to be high tech and not high tech in the world. The way it was so industrial and work a day kind of. We're in space, and we're not soldiers. We're not
Look at the
Starfleet officers. We're just fucking grunts.
yeah.
we're just
Look at the
grunts in
interior of that
space.
ship. It was like
Yeah.
in like a
And-
mining facility.
And this was just a big hole that they just said we're just out of intellectual energy. We're just not gonna. We're just gonna go with the lazy trope because everyone does it, and they'll let us get away with it. And to some extent, that's true. But it doesn't mean it's not a whopper though, because it was so easy to get out of if they just were if they thought about it, if they thought they had to do something about it.
Yeah, but you can't
Yeah.
you can't have if you say it's a whopper, like what would be the way for the way that gravity behaves? Like I said, in most science, like let's just take Star Trek for example. Everyone
Yeah.
understands. Like they walk on the bridge, they're walking around. It's Earth level gravity, right? What would be a way to have them get that exact thing with some good explanation that would satisfy you?
There's none.
Right.
There's none.
Right. So I'm saying that it's more important.
So say
for-
either it's a whopper or a gimme. You got
Right, but I'm saying, and because everyone retorted, I'm going to give you my final word on this. I'm saying that in order to have the human storytelling that needs to take place, and not let all of these intricacies get into the way of doing it. Right. For example, if someone had those shoes on that would make them bind to the floor, you couldn't have fights and all sorts of stuff. It just gets rid of so many things, and because people want to tell stories that allow people to move freely and be like they're on Earth, but be in a ship that can handle it. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, you guys.
rotation is the
You,
easy
you
way
guys
to do
make
it.
you guys make strong arguments. Would we consider having Whopper gimme, Whopper / gimme?
No.
No.
You got to make a
No,
call.
I can't be.
All right.
no.
Got to make a call. All right, I know.
It's just opinion based. At this
Let's
point.
go.
You can't mix those.
So
I know, but
I'm
these definitions-
saying whopper,
I'm saying it's a gimme.
and Bob, you got to break the tie. Did I sway you or not?
No, you did, and you know what? Jay swayed me back. This is gravity is just one of those. How did you describe it? It's the ultimate.
It's the ultimate science fiction gimme. Like
Yeah, it
everybody's
is.
using it.
It is. Steve, you had a very good argument. That's why I would really go with the slash. But I'm gonna go with Jay on this one because he swayed me. He brought me back. He brought me back in. I'm gonna say it's a gimme. I
All
think.
right, you guys are wrong.
So, so gravity in the Alien franchise is a
It's a
gimme.
Gimme, reluctantly.
Oh, you said it. Good, Steve. I didn't think you were going to say it.
Go
All
with the
right.
majority. It's a whopper,
All right.
but that's all right.
Quick, I want to say here that guys, we love science fiction. Do we sound picayune to you? We probably do. But
That's
we,
the point, though.
We
This is the
love
point
this.
to have
We love
fun
this
and-
stuff.
and
We
learn
love
some
this
science.
stuff. Only not that often are we actually. If we're taken out of a science fiction movie and we're like sitting in the theater, like saying, "Damn, why did you do that?" that's a mark against that. But there's many things like gravity on the ship. The alien blood did not really take us out, and we enjoy this shit. But this is a great vehicle for describing, explaining science and what science says. We still love these things, and we will still watch them, even when they make the big whoppers. We're still going to watch it and love
the
it.
bottom line is like we love this franchise.
Alien and Aliens were great movies.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about the rest of them.
No, but there were
those
some
two
good-
movies were iconic, incredible movies. Great storytelling.
I completely agree, and I think that another incredible Aliens or Aliens and Predator movie could happen. It's just good writing. It just
Alien
takes
Earth is
writing.
also very good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's Star Trek and Star Wars have the same problem. Like great seasons, great shows, and all that. There's bad stuff in there, or whatever. The bottom line is, we love this stuff so much that even if it has 2 or 3 whoppers, I'm still a fan and I love it. And us calling it a whopper doesn't mean we're condemning the movie. We're just being very particular about it.
That's a different assessment. I agree. Like the anti-gravity thing, whatever. That didn't take me out of the movie. The FTL did a little bit because I was spending my time watching the movie, wrapping my head around what is this FTL or not, and all that. That was a problem.
Yeah.
And there are other movies where there are whoppers that absolutely destroy the movie for
course.
you. Like
It does
Prometheus
happen.
is like the
It does-
iconic
it
one.
does
that movie
happen.
just-
It's like whopper after whopper. At some point, you're just like, this is just you can't.
I'm
This-
full.
yeah.
I can't take any more whoppers.
We're full of whoppers.
It was wrong in so many freaking ways.
Don't get us started.
We
We'll
reviewed
get
it.
there.
We reviewed it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get. I think for this series, we probably should come back. Maybe dial
Ooh,
back to it.
damn.
Yeah, and
okay.
we'd have to probably do 2 or more episodes to cover everything, just to
Yeah.
re-rip
Well, we'll
it
see.
apart. We've already ripped it apart, but we will really rip it apart from a science perspective.
All right.
Guys, on every episode in season 3, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. Give us your explanations. Tell us what your rating is, right? So really quick again, the ratings are hard science means that it jives with current science. There's no problem. It's just totally acceptable. Soft science
they're
means
inventing some new science, but it's plausible extrapolation.
Yeah,
Reasonable. Yep.
Then we have the gimme, which means they just have to give them a get out of jail free card on it. The story needs it, and and gimmies are fine, and almost everybody uses.
But don't
them.
abuse it. Don't abuse
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And whoppers are the ones that are inexcusable.
Lazy.
Bad writing, laziness.
Don't care.
No consideration for what's going on in the world of science today. Breaking the laws of physics. It's just like a slap in the face when you're watching the movie. So let us know, and we will engage with you in the comments. I would love to hear people, particularly about this,
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
this
when
gravity one. I want to hear what they have to say.
All right.
See you next week.